Welcome back. We're picking up from last week's episode where we were talking about how to shift from chasing people to creating ownership and accountability. If you haven't checked out last week's episode, now's a good time to pause and watch it. The link is in the notes below. And then join us back here because we're going to keep going. Let's talk about coaching. So, when a pattern of chasing appears with an individual or a subset team, you're going to need to coach to make sure your expectations are clear, to make sure you've got feedback and understanding and perspective from why you have to keep chasing the particular individual or team. You might start by, I'm noticing I'm checking in often to see where things are. My goal for both of us is to spend less time on that. What system would help you stay on track and communicate updates before I have to ask? So the idea here is you're noticing, I see, or it appears, I notice that. You share some facts and you ask an open-ended question that invites their feedback and perspective on what actually is going on. Once you've had a chance to dialogue and consider the perspectives, what may be getting in the way, maybe it was simply a misunderstanding. Perhaps somebody didn't have access to the tool. There could be a lot of reasons. Once you've gained agreement on what the situation is and you're reestablishing your expectations or establishing new norms with this individual, you might say something like, let's try this again. Let's reset. As we discussed, you're going to update our reporting tool by end of the day on Friday. And I won't step in and remind you. You'll have it done by end of the day Friday so that everybody on the team can look at it. Does that sound okay? So you've gained agreement. Now, what happens if you've had this conversation and they still miss the deadline or the expectation again? It's time for another coaching moment with them. Pull them in one-on-one and say, last week when we talked about this, we agreed that by Friday, end of the day, you would have the tool updated. What got in the way? Let them bring their information. Now, if it's excuses, if there's nothing legitimate, if you don't see eye to eye on this, it's time for another open-ended question. The expectation is to have the information in the tool on Friday. How will you be able to honor that expectation? So you're putting the responsibility in their lap. Using that SBI coaching formula, we talked about it in the accountability segments. It's the situation, when and where did this happen, the observable action or behavior, and the impact, the effect that it has on the team, plus the next step, what will you do differently? So it sounds like this. We've sat down a couple of times to talk about expectations for reporting in our shared status tool. I've observed that despite that conversation, your updates are not in the tool by end of the day Friday. This impacts me because I'm unable to see the information I need in a timely manner. It's also impacting the team because we don't have information on your work stream, and that means we're flying blind. We don't know if we're on track or off, which may impact our ability to meet our goal. We need to see updates and information about how things are going on your team. What will you do differently? Can I gain your commitment that you will take action to correct this? So you have quite an end-to-end conversation there. If you want to take coaching further, let's loop back to accountability. Have them assess where they are on the accountability ladder instead of you telling them the impact. See if you can help them assess where they've dropped the ball, where they're not showing accountability, and how that impacts the rest of the team. If after 2 or 3 rounds of coaching, you're still not seeing the results, you may have to shift to corrective action. It's pretty unusual if you're developing people and giving them the opportunity to learn from their mistakes, helping them correct, asking questions, and gaining feedback. It's rare to not see progress with those individuals, but sometimes it happens. So if you find that you are working with an individual or a team where you just are not seeing the results, despite conversations, coaching, and commitment, then corrective action may be the right step. And as always with corrective actions, it shouldn't be a surprise. So you're explaining what you expect, asking them to own the steps and outcomes, and gaining their agreement. It should be clear. If they cannot or will not do what's been discussed, indicate what the next steps and results are going to be. For example, we've agreed to a clear set of next steps and the support that I'll provide you. If you're still unable to meet expectations, then I want to be clear that the result is going to be fill in the blank. What are some examples of the types of things that could happen? There are a variety of things that happen in organizations that are used as consequences when people refuse to participate, behave, and improve. Some of these things are warnings and official letters in their HR file, or they become ineligible for extra compensation, bonuses, and raises. Perhaps they're unable to do something that the rest of the team or organization is going to do. For example, attend an annual trip or attend an annual conference, travel for the next QBR, or travel at all. The goal is to mutually identify ways for everyone to be accountable, to own their behaviors and actions and contributions. Sometimes it's as simple as explaining to people what they didn't do and asking them to do it. Other times, for whatever reason, you can coach several times, gain commitment, and still not see the behaviors and outcomes that you expected. And if you can't coach them to the ownership that you expect, you may need to consider alternatives, but don't ever let those be a surprise. No gotchas. Clarify it up front so they know what's coming. Join Boss at the Helm here on Fridays for more many but mighty leadership lessons. It's all about awareness, accountability, and leveling up. Lead yourself, then lead others. Be a boss.